Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's session run by the Textile Institute Special Interest Group on Technical Textiles. I'm joined here by a panel, our committee. Wonderful to be here in Huddersfield and to see you all. We just want to tell you a little bit about the SIG, which was sort of rebooted a couple of years ago. As probably you know, technical textiles represents about £2 billion of activity in the UK and 170 billion worldwide. It's the fastest growing sector in the textile industry. We, as the SIG, we run events and provide networking and information about this increasingly important part of textile industry. A huge amount of research relates to technical textiles, and it will play a very significant role in climate change, whether it's textiles used for wind turbines, aerospace and composites using natural fibers, irrigation environmental projects around the world which use geotextiles. At the SIG, we cover a wide range of topics and have a wonderful panel for you today. This year saw ITMA take place in Milan, so without any further ado, I'll hand over to Jason Kent of the BTMA to tell us about ITMA. Thank you, Jason.
Okay, so the BTMA is one of the 9 European associations that forms Cemetex, which owns the ITMA brand. So effectively we have a 1/9 stake in the exhibition. And we support our members in the UK through the whole application process to getting their stand built on site and promoting them. And ITMA this year, those of you who attended, I think will all agree it's been a very successful show. It was the 19th edition of ITMA. The quality of visitorship was very, very high, and the numbers through the gate was at 111,000, which is something of a record. We had 1,709 exhibitors exhibiting over 200,000 square meters, 200,000 square meters, sorry. We're going to better that in Hanover in 2027. We're going for 220,000 square metres, so the show will be even bigger as our industry grows. We had quite a few VIPs who visited the show. We had the President of Uzbekistan, the Indian CITI delegation led by their Minister of State for Textiles and Railways visited, and Miss Valentina Superti, the Director for the European Commission, also paid a visit to the show. What was also new at the show this time was Startup Valley, where we had a number of startup organisations from around Europe, and we gave them an opportunity to get a taste of ITMA and exhibit, and they was financially supported through the whole process. And then we had the Innovator Exchange as well, where we, for the first time, we had industry speakers outside of the textile machinery industry, and Parrick was one of them who presented a fantastic insight into the Valley of Death, etc. And that was very, very well attended, and we think it's going to be even bigger in Hanover. So it was a successful show by all counts.
Am I on? Yeah. How many days to Hanover?
1,508, I think.
It's been a bit of a running joke, the number of days to ITMA, and it's been going down to about 3, and now it's suddenly sprung back up again. So I'm Becky, so I am the secretary for the SIG group. So if anybody needs any information about it, then give me a shout. I'll probably be down on the WTI stand. And my other role is that I'm the managing editor of the Textiles magazine, so the magazine that you all get through your Textile Institute membership. So I went along to the show to see what was new, to see how the industry was going, and obviously to get some of the future articles for the magazine. So you'll see in the next issue of the magazine that there'll be some press releases from ITMA and then some also articles relating to it. It was a great show. It was really buoyant. It felt like the industry was slightly less worried and kind of fractious than it has been in the past due to COVID and supply chain issues. It really felt like it was all coming back together again. interestingly, I went looking for new technologies, which I was controversially slightly disappointed by. I felt like it was incredible in terms of sustainability. All of the machines were using less energy. All of the machines were recycling water. Adrian's going to take you through the recycling machinery that was available. So in terms of sustainability, I thought it was fabulous. I think it will be interesting to see what new technologies we have coming through, because obviously we've got such a focus at the moment on making sure that what we make in a more sensible manner. It'll be interesting to see what new technologies come through, and obviously that's something that we'll really want to talk about as a SIG as we go forward. But yeah, in terms of sustainability, the show was fabulous in terms of actually reducing the impact that our industry has on the environment. So I'll segue over to Adrian to talk about the recycling machinery that was available at the show.
Okay, sure, thank you. Thanks, Becky. Extended producer responsibility. This was a big thing that became very apparent to me is going to have a huge impact. Now, it's going to be Europe-wide by 2025. And the UK is not going to escape it, despite not being in Europe anymore. The government's looking at this now, and it's going to put responsibility for the waste generated by the textile industry back on the producers of it. Now, one thing that arose that I thought was very interesting is that France has had its own EPR scheme for the past 10 years or so. And what's happening now is that the money collected from that scheme is trickling back down the supply chains to the extent that you're getting approximately €1 per kilo for every kilo of recycled fibre you can put back on the market. Now that is suddenly galvanising, the market for recycling, and it's going to spread pretty wide, pretty fast, I think. So we'll see how that goes. I mean, it's interesting that in the UK, we've just down the road here, we've got Camira introducing, who's an exhibitor here, introducing the first, I believe, recycled wool in 20 years, first new textile machinery for it. We've also got the Salvation Army down in Kettering opening the first polyester goods recycling plant. So it's all going to move pretty fast. Just the other thing that I think is worth mentioning was it's all the developments on either side of the fabric forming. Everybody goes to it now to look at the knitting machines, see how fast the weaving machines go. It's traditionally all been about speed of machinery, whereas all the developments in the new fibres at one end and the new finishing machinery in the other, I mean the spray dyeing technologies, there's a handful of them now, including Alchemy in the UK, and they were swamped with inquiries. So they're the two areas I think things are going to move in the next year or so. But certainly by the time the next SIGMAR in Hanover, I expect to see big changes in both those areas.
Shift,
yeah, I think so. I don't know if you have any further thoughts on this, Jane? Do you want to say? Okay.
I wasn't actually at ITMAR, but in terms of recycling, I was at the outdoor fair in Germany, and the emphasis there, which the outdoor fair was got by Greenpeace in 2011, ever since then, companies like Patagonia, Vardeo, etc., have been really into environmental advancements, or hopefully sustainability moves. This time, Vardeo, which introduced Ecolog in the 90s, when it didn't work because outdoor clothing lasted too long. Ecolog was everything in that garment would be one fibre, polyester at that point, fleece, zips, studs, everything. They've now relaunched that system at this last outdoor fair. And the other story was, so monofibre basically, begin with designers selecting all one fibre, and the other story was cellulosic monofibres. So there were a lot of companies in the way forward area promoting monofibres, and obviously it still boils down to the collection of those pieces. Initially, outdoor garments were so well made they didn't wear out, but and I suppose back to Patagonia that Charles Ross mentioned earlier on, they're very much promoting repair, and many of the outdoor companies are promoting repair. So understanding my friend that isn't to do with it now, but tends to do with what's going on in general.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Jane. Thank you to everyone. So please do. It's a really important time for Technical Textiles, and so please do join us on the TI stand downstairs. You'll find one of these QR codes. Please sign up. All members of the Textile Institute, I'm sure you all are very welcome to join. We've had some wonderful, very successful events on covering graphene and 2D materials, recycling in technical textiles, where we see substantial opportunities for taking some of the feedstock, particularly of synthetic fibres, but not just synthetics, from very short life cycle products into much longer life cycle products used in technical textiles, which might last up to 10 years. So there's a lot going on, so please, I would urge you all, please do sign up and join us today. And we do have a little bit of available time, so may I ask if there are any questions for the panel? There is one question here. If you can just ask you to introduce yourself, please.
Kate Girls of the University of the Arts London. Just coming from the previous panel discussion this morning, we were talking about the need for manufacturing equipment that can collect environmental carbon energy data sort of during the process, because the kind of data we have access to is often out of date before it hits the page. Is that something you saw at ITMA, and is that a potential direction?
Well, certainly from my point of view, the need for transparency, it's across the board, and it starts with, I believe it was said in the last one, starts with the machinery. If you've not got accurate data on the performance of that machine, it skews everything else within the chain. I don't know if you have any further thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think it's very much the jump from Industry 4 to, we actually heard Industry 5 at ITMAR now, and it was very much about, yes, we've got connected machines, but it's not holistic in a way where we can understand what the external factors are that are affecting the machine and the inputs and outputs. So the machinery industry has woken up to that. It's making we can collect data easily. It's how we make it into something that's sensible and decision making for us. And I think that was the big discussions at ITMAR. We have a lot of data, we just don't quite know what the industry needs to do with it. So we're looking for feedback from the manufacturers to say this is a direction we should be going in.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting, isn't it? How you analyse and then spread the data. I've been seeing a lot of companies like Made to Flow, or those sorts of companies that are aggregating data now for brands, and somehow they could connect in with the machinery of the brand. That feels like it would be amazing.
Yeah, and that's quite true, that the machinery manufacturers, they're not the data experts on presenting it, and they go, yes, so what, we can collect it, but what do we do with it?
Yeah. My name is Dr. Yazuddin. I'm from Pakistan Circular Fashion Council. My question is, she just mentioned Patagonia, that repair. When you talk about recycle and repair parallel, how you see the difference? The priority is going to be for the repair, and if you calculate the emissions to recycle the whole product and the lifespan of the product, it has an additional impact and additional emissions on that. So how do you see the future?
I can add a little bit on that one. I sit on a panel called Accelerating Circularity and represent collectors and sorters who are based throughout the UK collecting product. And actually, we're trying to do fibre-to-fibre recycling at the moment. And it's really interesting that the products that are suitable for recycling are actually still suitable for reuse as well. And the products that are not suitable for recycling because they're too old and too worn out, they're the products that we really need to focus on what happens to them in the next life. And it was interesting at ITMAR, there were quite a few yarn spinners who were able to cope with shorter fibre lengths. So I think it's a really interesting area at the moment, because if you can repair something and reuse it, that's absolutely the priority, or first actually reduce. Obviously, if you can do without it, that would be great. And it was interesting at ITMAR, the speed that machines could produce fabric and could produce garments. And I actually wanted us to slow it all down, because if we can make it really quick, then it almost reduces its value. So yeah, it was interesting in the repair and recycle, because at the moment, the materials that aren't in a fit state to be reused can't be recycled. So that area is a really interesting area to look at. And obviously, the products that we make are hugely complicated, particularly, as Jane was saying, in the outdoor industry. To take these products apart, no one wants to do it. There's not that system in place where people will take these products apart at the moment. So the recycling project that I've been working in, we've had to be dismantling product. We've been collecting product in the UK, dismantling it overseas, and then recycling it in Portugal. And again, if we kind of come back to sensible, it's not sensible.
Yeah, I've just got an interesting addition to maybe underline that point. I think with looking at fibre-to-fibre recycling as a major component of the overall thing, there is absolutely no way we're going to get anywhere near without expanding the use of non-wovens from recycled materials. It's just simply not possible. I mean, there were Rita and the cotton spinners in general all trying to accommodate more recycled fibre. But the best you're looking at is 40% really for any kind of acceptable product. Old-fashioned mechanical recycling into non-wovens, can produce any kind of product, and it's certainly going to play a big part in meeting the EU's targets before 2030. Maybe things will change a bit after that, but we need a lot more uses for fibre-to-fibre into non-wovens manufacturing, I think.
Any further questions?
Here we go.
Hi, it's Charles at the RCA. I'm interested in what you're saying about fibre-to-fibre recycling, especially the mechanical, which I think we have not used enough. But my question is a stage up. Are we getting enough feedstock? The people who seem to be making the most profit from textiles at the moment are IKEA, because we're buying and storing so much more. We doubled our wardrobe from the millennium to 2015, from 1970 to the millennium. We are hoarding textiles like they're going out of fashion because they are so cheap. How would you recommend that we should change the attitude to ownership of textiles?
I think the simple answer to that, Charles, is that EPR is going to bang the prices of everything up because the consumer will pay for it in the end. That's the motivation.
And from speaking from a Recyclatex point of view, in terms of do we have enough volume being collected? Yeah, there's a lot, and it's kind of scary. When you look at the conveyor belts of products being brought in, like truckload after truckload, some have got swing tickets on, they've never been worn, but it's the complicatedness of those products. And also, when we speak to recyclers about whether they could potentially recycle the product for us, obviously the tolerances that they can work with are still quite fine. So if they're a polyester chemical recycler, if there's any elastane or if there's any finishes or if there's any dirt, then they can't recycle them. So I think in terms of volume, it's definitely there. The amount of product that is being collected is huge, but it's then making that product be suitable in order to be able to recycle it. I think that's a real kind of tricky point at the moment.
Okay, everyone, so thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. As I say, please do pop down to the TI stand and zap the QR code and join in. Thank you so much.